Good morning, everyone. We like to start, sharp because we know folks have a lot to do in a busy day, and we appreciate you getting up early and coming out this morning with us. I don't know about some of you out there, but I am not a morning person. I don't even get getting up before 5. Yeah, you can clap for that. But I really appreciate it. We are so excited to have everyone here at the Empowerment Breakfast this morning. We have so many folks to thank. We have a wonderful group of sponsors who have helped us and supported us. And our sponsors, I think our list will be up there on the screen. We have our sponsor slide, maybe? All right, we'll get to that in a minute. Oh, there we go. So, and I want to give an applause for all of our sponsors, but particularly the Marie Lantham Foundation, which is going to be matching all gifts this morning, up to $10,000. So I should say up to $10,000. There is a caveat on that. But all of our sponsors, we deeply, deeply appreciate your support this morning. And a new thing for us at this breakfast, Columbia has generously provided store passes. So make sure to look at your table there and see your store passes. And as a partner, Dress for Success, we get 10% of the sales that you use with your store passes. So we deeply appreciate that support. And of course, all of our major sponsors and donors this morning. The other thing is I'd like to give a shout out to Dress for Success's Board of Directors. Do we have our Board of Directors in Dress for Success? Could you please stand? And I also want to acknowledge the State Attorney General. Rosenblum is here. Do you want to stand? Yeah. Are there any other elected officials that I have missed who are in the audience this morning who would like to acknowledge? All right. Oh, did I miss anybody? Somebody recently elected? Oh, okay. Well, I just want to thank you all for coming because this event is so meaningful to us, as all events, but this event we really try to hone in and focus in on what does it take to help women succeed at work. And the women we serve are no different than many of the women in this audience. The women we serve at Dress for Success represent everything from a 7th grade education to a PhD. We help women at all levels of their work life. We are, in fact, a workforce development organization. Obviously, clothing is a big part of how people know us, but we provide pre-employment job coaching, post-employment job support, as well as job retention services beyond that, and we really focus on wage progression. But we have some really exciting things going on at Dress for Success that I want to tell you about, and I guess one of the more exciting things is that we are on the verge of expansion, and we are about to open a satellite office in Salem, Oregon. So we are incredibly excited about that. We are very excited to be able to bring our services to the women of Marion County and the greater area out there beyond the Portland metro area. So we'll be letting folks know more about that as that comes online. The other project we're incredibly excited to let you know about is the Talent Path project. That is a project between Dress for Success and Treehouse. Treehouse is an online coding company that teaches people to code online. Dress for Success and Treehouse have joined together in the Talent Path program to bring online a group of women, adult women, who will be learning to code. It is a coding cohort. And the way the Treehouse model works is that it is a 7th-month tech degree where you learn to code, a 3-month internship at the company, and then you are hired. The women who make it through the program, the company that has agreed to hire 6 of the women who make it through, and they are going to be hiring them at $50,000 a year plus benefits. That is huge. This is, if I'm not mistaken, the first time Treehouse has tried to launch, and the company is Acquia. It's a technology company here in Portland. And this is the first time that Treehouse has tried to launch an adult female coding cohort. And the question is, who would come? We did a call, and we had over 80 women RSVP to 3 informational sessions. Over 70 women show up, and over 56 women go online to do the assessment. We have a coding cohort of 12, and we hope they all make it through. And I would like for our coding cohort, some of them are here today, to stand and be recognized. They're just starting their journey. We are so proud of them. I mean, this is a really big thing for them to try. The ages range from 28 to 52, and it's over, I think, 40% women of color. So a lot of things that we're told about technology that women, that people of color aren't interested, they are, if they have the right door to walk through, if they have assurance from the organization that they're working with that this is something for them. So we are so incredibly and ridiculously excited about this program, and we hope to give them all the support we can. So we will move now to the other wonderful part of our program before we hear our speaker, Dr. Rose. I would like to bring up our volunteer manager, Lindsay Norlander. Lindsay, come on up.
Thank you, Sherry. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Lindsay Norlander. I manage the volunteers and the store at Dress for Success Oregon. And for those of you that don't know, we rely very heavily and are so grateful for our volunteer base of over 200 individuals who volunteer their time and services to support our clients one-on-one, both one-on-one and also in group settings, as well as behind the scenes, to really ensure that our clients are feeling supported and acknowledged, and that we're able to provide those services to them. So while we would like to highlight every volunteer who comes in and supports our services, we do want to take the time today to highlight 3 individuals who really go above and beyond to serve our clients. So if Margot Passador, Karen Morgan, and Becky Schindale wouldn't mind coming to the stage, and we'd like to give them our Volunteer Services Award. You're first up. Yeah. So our first award goes to Margot, who has been a volunteer at Dress for Success Oregon since 2014. And she supports our mission within our personal shopping program. So she works one-on-one with our clients, but aside from that, Margot is always looking for solutions into how we can improve our services and support our clients. So she is there on off hours. She's moving things around for us, as well as helping us with training other volunteers. So thank you, Margot. Thank you. Yeah. So our next award goes to Karen Morgan. Karen has been a volunteer since 2015, and she assists us within our welcome appointments. And our welcome appointments are really the first exchange and the first experience a client has at Dress for Success Oregon. So a client is met in the lobby by Karen and other volunteers, and really Karen sits down one-on-one with the client to make sure that we are meeting that client's exact needs. So whether that is she's going into an interview and she is needing some, demystifying of the interview process, or if she's recently employed, how we could support her retaining her job. So Karen does this always with such empathy and is always willing to train other volunteers and just comes in with such a smile on her face. So thank you, Karen. And last but not least is Becky Shindale. So Becky has been a volunteer at Dress for Success since 2014 as well. And she is a personal shopper who always comes in with a smile on her face and has just such a beam of light, and is always willing to, support us in so many different ways and help us train new volunteers, and comes in with ideas and the occasional snacks as well, which we always appreciate. So we're so grateful for you, Becky. Thank you.
All right, ladies, let's all get a picture. Okay. We couldn't do what we do at Dress without volunteers. Volunteers are really the lifeblood of what we do. We really want to center the client experience when they come to Dress, and volunteers help us do that. And so we deeply, deeply appreciate all of those out there, and there are many of you out there who have volunteered and helped at Dress and supported Dress with clothing drives, and so we appreciate you all so much. So this morning, we are incredibly excited and honored. We're going to be hearing from a couple of wonderful women as speakers and as part of the panel. And before I introduce them individually, I'm just going to introduce the group. We have Dr. Melanie Rose, Sarah Redgrave, Anna Motos, and Kara Roth. You'll be hearing from these women this morning, and we're going to start with our keynote speaker, Dr. Melody Rose. Dr. Melody Rose currently serves as the 15th president of Marylhurst University, and prior to joining Marylhurst, she was the first woman chancellor of the Oregon University system. She spent 17 years at Portland State University, where she founded PSU's Center for Women and Leadership Mentoring and providing leadership training for women. Dr. Rose has authored a number of award-winning books, including Hillary Clinton's Race for the White House. She currently serves as the Habitat for Humanity Portland Metro East Board and was recently honored with the Marie Lantham Award from the Girl Scouts for her work mentoring young women. Dr. Rose received her bachelor's degree in politics from the University of California at Santa Cruz, and a master's in public administration and a master's in government, as well as a PhD in government from Cornell University. We are honored this morning to hear from our keynote speaker, Dr. Melody Rose.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much, Sherry, for that generous introduction. And thank you to Dress for Success for inviting me to speak this morning. Dress for Success is an especially important organization to me for a number of reasons. I've recently become involved with the advisory board after having been somehow recruited to walk the runway at the 2013 gala. Still getting over that. The mission of Dress is dear to my heart: to empower women to achieve economic independence by providing a network of support, professional attire, and the development tools they need to thrive in work and in life. I was thrilled to be asked to share with you a few things about my own path to thriving in work and life, and I'm so happy to be with you all this morning. Helping women gain access to these tools to further their careers is vital. I know because I didn't always have those tools, and I can attest to the fact that they make all the difference in our confidence and in our ability to achieve. You may not guess it by meeting me today. Today, I have the advantages of economic stability and a strong education that come with being a university president. And my professional attire, well, it's not too bad. But my path to becoming a university president was more complicated and unconventional than most leaders in higher education, and this is why I wanted to share my story with you, because truly, in the end, whether we look it or not, we all face challenges in this life. I was the first in my family to go to college. I grew up all over California, attending 10 schools by my count. I was raised by a teenage mom and a father with addiction issues. Both of my parents had had very challenging childhoods themselves, living in poverty and surrounded by addiction. Raised by poor immigrants, my dad and my aunt found themselves homeless on multiple occasions, sleeping in friends' garages or the expansive orange groves that once dotted Southern California during their childhoods. And despite my dad's many difficulties, or perhaps because of them, he was determined to provide my brother and me with a better life, which in his estimation meant access to education. I was so fortunate to go to public schools as a kid at a time and a place where the state invested in kids. I managed to complete my high school degree after going to 3 high schools in 2 states. And one day I was encouraged by a guidance counselor to consider college, something I had never dreamed of, much less heard of. I had no idea what that meant, but I was hardworking, I was bookish, and I did not want to fall into a life of addiction like my dad and brother, or to be a teenage mom like most of the women in my family tree. I also happened to be a rule follower, and I generally did what I was told. Not so much now. So I took 2 college applications from my guidance counselor's hand, and I went home and I filled out both, unbeknownst to my dad, who by this time was raising my brother and me on his own. Luckily, I was admitted to both colleges, neither which I had ever seen and knew nothing about. When I proudly presented my dad with my options, he was stunned and very, very proud. Proud, stunned, and terrified about how my family would pay for me to get a degree. In those days, our state paid about 2/3 of the cost of a public college degree, but even so, that bill was daunting. But my dad was determined to make it happen, and so was I. My dad, who so badly had wanted to attend college himself, quietly went to his employer and asked his boss to pay my tuition. I can only imagine how hard that must have been for him. The humility, the sacrifice, and the love it took for him to ask for help must have been so hard. So although I only learned about this many, many years later, a stranger paid my way and allowed me to have the opportunity for economic freedom and security that made me who I am today. And I've made it my life's goal to return that favor and to do everything within my power to return the gift of education that was given so generously to me. Dress for Success is stepping in to change lives like people like mine every single day. The services they provide create pathways to independence and enhance confidence in immeasurable ways. And it's not just about getting that perfect suit for the interview. As you heard from Sherry, that's only one piece of what Dress for Success does. What I love most about Dress is the commitment to holistic, wraparound services, interview prep, resume building, job training, and support for your employment advancement. Did you know, before Sherry mentioned it, that Dress is stepping up to provide clients with job-ready skills for the booming industry in computer programming? I wish I'd had that option, actually. After earning my bachelor's degree from UC Santa Cruz, I followed up that degree with others, as you heard from Sherry. I found my calling in education and eventually landed at Portland State University, where I founded the Center for Women's Leadership, bringing together my passions for education, politics, and lifting up other women. My later roles as the first woman chancellor of the Oregon University System and president of Merrillhurst all stemmed from the opportunities I had to access education, but also impressed upon me the responsibility of those of us who have benefited from the generosity of others. While I may have been the first this or the first that, I know it is absolutely critical that I not be the last. I'm sharing my story with you not because I want to bore you with my resume. but to assure you that you can't always see a person from the outside. Many who meet me today might assume that I came from a place of affluence, from a family with an expectation that I attend college. In reality, I have always felt like it was a miracle that I got an education at all. My little brother, for example, was not so fortunate. Racked by the addiction demons that haunt my family tree, while I went to college, Chris went to rehab. The miracle of my education and climb out of poverty was made possible in no small measure by the kindness of others, and so often strangers, who saw my ability and were generous enough to step in and offer assistance in ways that were dignified and respectful. Like Dress for Success helps its clients toward economic empowerment and systems of support with grace. I'm telling you my story also to share that no one succeeds alone and hardship comes to us all. By now, I'm sure you're very much aware that Marylhurst University is closing after 125 years in operation. In the past few months, our community has faced difficult decisions and very painful conversations. I've faced personal challenges and I've doubted my resilience more than once. But sometimes we don't know what we're capable of. When the board voted to close the university, I was convinced that the trustees should hire someone with closure expertise, someone who had done that thing before. I might be at the top of my industry, but I had significant doubt in my abilities when facing such a unique challenge. But my board wouldn't let me go. They saw something in me that I couldn't initially see in myself. The ability to do what needed to be done under very difficult circumstances and to do it with dignity and grace. Sometimes we need others to believe in us when we don't. Even now, as my current job is winding down, I'm facing the same question as many Dress for Success clients face today. What's next? Where do I go from here? And not least, do I have the right interview suit? The way in which we ask these questions is what defines us, our character, and our strength, especially as women. I like to think of my background and my upbringing as putting me in a unique situation to be able to handle both the challenges in my past and the uncertainties in my present. Many of the women that Dress serves have also faced challenging pasts and presents, and I know the strength it takes to overcome those situations. As I pivot to what is next, I'm grateful for those I have in my life who not only believe in me, but who have also lifted me up when I needed it most. I'm so thankful for the work that Dress does to lift up women who are facing challenges or starting fresh. In today's world, now more than ever, we need women and more diverse women in our workforce. I'm so grateful to be among all of you this morning, kindred spirits and fellow travelers, and I look forward to our discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that powerful and inspiring speech. Thank you. We will now hear, our next speaker is a former client of ours. Kara Roth was a client at Dress 12 years ago, and she today is the business manager for the First Congregational United Church of Christ. She's responsible for promoting the church's activities to the public, coordinating special and educational events, and building partnerships with other organizations. Kara?
Thank you. Thank you for having me this morning. I'm honored to be part of this event. I'm a proud recipient of Dress for Success services at a time when I was completely without direction and hope. I'm going to tell you my story. I was raised in an upper middle class conservative Christian home in the South. I had a loving family. However, I never felt like I belonged. I asked more questions than a girl was supposed to. I enjoyed science and politics more than girls were supposed to, and I thought about girls more than girls were supposed to. I was told that my entire goal in life was supposed to be to find a husband, settle down, and have children. So I had a lot of shame and confusion in my childhood. I felt like an alien waiting for the mothership to come get me. In school, I was told that I had a learning disability. I was put in special classes. I was teased a lot and ended up dropping out of school in the 10th grade after failing several grades in elementary and middle school. But luckily, I was saved by a man. I married a very nice, good-looking minister who was exactly what my parents were looking for. I began to settle in for a long life of housewifery and motherhood. Within a month, I started to experience severe depression. I remember crying in my bed at night and literally praying for a lobotomy. I said, God, clearly everybody wants me here. I want everyone to be happy, but just take me out of it. So within about 3 months, I found my lobotomy in Vicodin. As soon as I took the first one, I felt like the world fit me for the first time. I was able to cook and to clean and socialize and go to church and be the good girl that I'd always wanted to be. That went on for about 6 years. I went from taking 1 pill a day to 20 pills 3 times a day. But it turns out addicts don't make good wives. So I lost my marriage. My life began to unravel. In my efforts to get more pain pills, I racked up a criminal record with felonies, a DUI, and theft charges. I went through 6 residential treatment centers and dozens of detoxes, including Hooper Detox. But I continued to slide down the rabbit hole of despair and detachment from society. I never felt like I belonged in the first place. After a failed attempt to get Vicodin one night, I was offered heroin by a stranger. I accepted wholeheartedly. I vowed that night that I would do as much heroin as I could until it killed me. I was sleeping on the street during that time and shooting heroin behind my favorite dumpster every day. All that I owned fit into a ratty backpack. This went on for months. I began to dare myself to step in front of Max trains. I hated all of you, and I was completely detached from any part of myself that still existed. I even went by a different name during that time in order to cope with the epic fail that Kara was. Then one night, I was very dope sick and was offered free heroin by a pimp. I accepted. He said I could have more the next day, but it was clear to me what that next day was going to look like and all the days that followed. But I also knew that I would be back the next day. Instead, I showed up at Hooper Detox at daybreak. I begged for them to let me in. They said no. I had been there too many times. I told them that I was about to turn a corner that I wasn't sure I would come back from. I cried and cried. She let me in. The next morning, I laid in my detox bed, and it was clear for the first time in my life what I needed to do. Stop listening to what other people think you should do. I started asking questions without shame. I started reading books about non-Christian solutions without shame. And I started thinking about girls without shame. I read a book called Creative Visualizations by Shakti Gawain. It's about how to imagine yourself in a life that you want and speak truth to it as if it already exists. I began cutting out pictures from magazines of women going to professional jobs, women sitting in classrooms, and women sitting in boardrooms. I repeated the same mantras 50 times a day. You are a strong woman. You are an independent thinker, and you are capable of more than you know. I learned how to shower again and brush my teeth again and make eye contact again. After several months of treatment, I was ready to be released. My clothes were still a stark reminder of where I had been, so my counselor gave me a referral to Dress for Success. When I walked in, I was terrified. I did not feel like I even belonged in the store around all those nice things, and I certainly didn't believe those nice things belonged on me. But a very put-together woman approached me. I waited for her to look me up and down with disgust. I searched her face for a reaction to my appearance. She looked right into my eyes, and it was like she didn't see the woman I had been. She saw the woman I wanted to be. As I tried on one outfit after another, she treated me like a rich patron in a fancy department store, giving me feedback about the clothes I was selecting. I selected a few very dressy professional outfits and a briefcase, which I had no idea what to do with. As I walked to the bus stop with all my clothes, I actually remember thinking, wow, this whole life thing might actually happen. Why else would they have wasted all these nice clothes on me? After treatment, I moved to a clean and sober house and got a job at the only place that hired felon heroin addicts fresh out of treatment. The workers were treated very poorly. Their employment practices were barely legal, but none of us were in a position to complain. My counselor had told me to dress for the job that I want, not the job that I had. So, while other employees wore cutoffs and flip-flops, I wore my new Dress for Success outfits and carried my briefcase with nothing in it but a bus pass. My married boss flirted with me and touched me inappropriate daily. I didn't know any better than to be flattered. One day I told him that I wanted to go to school. He said, "You are too old to go to school, and your brain is likely damaged. You should just stay here and work hard, and I'll take care of you." I'm so grateful that he said all that to me that day, because it made me very angry. That night, I went home and worked all night on a resume. Within 2 weeks, I was in a very loving workplace, making twice as much. After 2 years at this job, my employer finally allowed me to start working part-time and go to school. It was a first for this workplace. They did not let people do that. In 2013, I graduated with honors with a Bachelor's of Science degree in business with an emphasis on nonprofit management. My capstone project was for First Congregational Church downtown. I created a 25-page strategic business plan for them. After graduating, the dean of the business school called me and said the church was looking for me. They wanted to hire me for one of the positions that I recommended that they create. Since then, I have received 3 promotions and now manage staff, all the physical assets and contracts for the church. I have brought in a needle exchange, a homeless shelter, and numerous recovery meetings. Last year, I was the first woman on either side of my family to purchase a home by herself. It was one of the most fulfilling moments of my life. I am more than my past. I am even more than my present. What defines me is the direction I am facing and the intention that I set in each moment. Dress for Success helped me to turn my direction and walk into the unknown. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kara. And let me just say, before Anna comes up too, you know, we don't take people sharing their stories lightly. People don't have to share the inside of themselves for us with you. and we have deep respect and deep humility and deep gratitude for every one of you for offering to open yourself up. So our final speaker this morning, and then we'll hear from our full panel in a bit, is Anna Matos. Anna is a former and current participant at DRESS. She helps, she's there to encourage other women. Anna is now a case manager for the Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Department of Multnomah County. And Anna has been previously featured at Dress for Success Celebrate. And we are so proud of Anna, and I would like to call Anna up.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Anna Matos, and I was last up on the stage just like this in 2015 as a speaking, and I was talking about my experience with Dress for Success. My stories only keeps getting better now, thanks to Dress for Success. Before I came out to Dress for Success Oregon, my family and I were struggling while I had once owned a successful business. It was a restaurant. Once the recession hit, I lost my restaurant and had to take an office job. My husband became disabled and my children became ill. Taking time off to take care of my children cost me a job. I got fired from my first job. My medicine for rheumatoid arthritis, because I am a disabled person, I have rheumatoid arthritis, cost $2,000 per month, and I couldn't afford it. I was gonna be homeless with 2 kids, a disabled husband, living in the middle of nowhere. I was terrified and could see no light at the end of the tunnel. Then I found Dress for Success. Vocational rehabilitational counselors referred me to Dress for Success. And the women there have my back from the first minute that I walked into the store. They helped me prepare for my first interview, and after, I got a job. I joined the whole program that helped me gain the confidence and the skills to make it through those first important 90 days of my first job. The last time I spoke about my experience with Dress for Success, I have become a member of the professional women's group. I was happy in my job at a nonprofit and optimistic about my future. I was right to be optimistic about my future because that nonprofit job was not the end of my road for me. Because PWG, Professional Women's Group, I continued to feel empowered and more confident that I could continue to advance in my career and work towards a higher wage. I learned how to explore and uncover my own skills because of this. I learned that I had the right skills to be a good supervisor. With this knowledge and my own growing confidence, I began applying for new jobs, ones which could offer me a higher wage and health insurance which would help me to afford my rheumatoid arthritis medication. Multnomah County was the employer that could do that for me. About 2 years ago, I became a case manager for the Intellectual Developmental Disability Department, working with children for ages 0 to 15 years old. I am very proud of my work and proud that I continue to achieve my goals, thanks to Dress for Success. With my most recent goal was to become one of the Diversity, Equity, and Social Justice Committee for the Multnomah County. I gained that confidence and I got what I need to Dress for Success. We got several trainings. I was able to fill up an application to apply for that committee, and I was interviewed for 20 committee members. And right after a week, I got accepted and offered that position. So I am part of that now. Thanks to all the support and all that I have learned from the ladies at Dress for Success, I don't have to worry about affording my medication anymore. My kids still have their mom. I have a stable job. I was able to get a home. Dress for Success plays such an important role in my life because they helped me to get up. I felt like there was no more hope for me, but now it is. They continue to support me and teach me that whatever I am now is not the end. It is not the top yet. I can reach more and I can dream higher. I can always do more and get higher and higher. I will never stop going there because the more I go, the more I learn and the more I grow. Today, I speak for all the women who haven't discovered Dress for Success yet. I know that once they will walk through those doors into the world of possibilities, they have the chance to be just like me. I am asking you to help those women find their path, find their confidence, and move forward in their future. Please give to this amazing organization so that the next generation of women in need will find a Dress for Success what I found: hope and encouragement and self-esteem. Thank you.
I want to thank all of our speakers one more time for their sharing. Thank you. So we are going to do our panel, but before we do that, we're going to ask you to consider helping Dress for Success. You can see that the work we do, we are trying to move women forward in many ways. For some women, it's the support of the clothing. For some women, it's the first 90 days support. For some women, it's the professional women's group. For some women, we're moving them forward with technology training. We are trying to move toward the future. It is important as a nonprofit that we not be just where people are, that we be where people will be. Right? So that's how we help our clients win the future. And for me, you know, the exciting part of all this will be one day when the person standing here as the executive director of Dress is one of our former clients. Then I will know we have done an amazing job at what we do. And I believe that day will come. And I'm incredibly excited about that. We would like to ask you to consider a gift for Dress for Success today. So we don't have paddles, it's not a paddle raise, but we would like for you to know that the first $10,000 we receive today will be matched by Marie Lantham Foundation. We want to give another hand to Marie Lantham for that support. And if you would consider a gift of $1,000 today to let you know what we do with that money. One of the things we have done is we are going to be providing $150 a month stipends to the women who are in our coding cohort. That is so they can make sure they have internet access, high-speed access, because that's going to be relevant, right, to coding. We make sure that they have computers that they need and support. So a gift of $1,000 would, you know, help one cohort participant for almost a year. So there are 12 cohort participants. So that is how you can see how that gift really impacts. Because a lot of times people say, well, what does my gift mean? So I would like for you to consider that gift. We have your cards on the table. You can also put them in the box, and we have folks who can come around and pick up gifts. If you want to raise your gift, someone would be happy to come by and pick it up. The other gift at the $1,000 level is a sustainer gift. As many of you may know, we have an organization, a group called the Little Black Dress Circle. And we're working on a group for guys. Don't worry, guys. We're thinking about something. I've heard bow tie. We'll think about that. But for right now, the Little Black Dress Circle is a women's affinity group. It is a group of women who agree to support dress, and they agree to $1,000 a year and make a 3-year commitment. That can be paid monthly, quarterly, annually, all at once, however you want. If you are interested in being a $1,000 sustainer for 3 years at the Little Black Dress Circle, just write Little Black Dress on your card. And then we will contact you and you can put how you would like to pay. That is an option. There's also the $500 level, and I would like to announce that Barron Liebman Law Firm has agreed to donate at the $500 level. Barron Liebman couldn't be here today, but they wanted everyone in the room to know that they will be giving at $500. So again, remember, if you can give at $1,000 or $500, those gifts will be doubled today. Also at the $250 level, one of the things we provide to clients when they come to Dress for Success are bus tickets. We provide meals in the evening when they come. We have off-site childcare. It is truly wraparound support. We want to make it possible for women to come and participate in our services. So at the $250 level, that helps us provide meals and bus tickets so clients can get there. We were talking before we came out, and there is so much to luck in all of our lives. There's so much to rolling the dice, and we don't know how those dice are going to come up. But this is your opportunity to blow on the dice for somebody else, to try to pass on some luck and support. So we ask you today to consider to give a meaningful gift to you. And if that gift is more than 1,000, we would be happy with that too. But give a meaningful gift to you so that we can help other women and be a blessing to them. And before we also begin our panel, I do want to mention one other thing that we are working on. We are going to be hosting a movie on October 23rd called Sufra. It is about a group of refugee women who start their own food truck in a refugee camp in Lebanon. It is an amazing, amazing, inspiring. If you are inspired today, you will be inspired by those stories. So if you know folks and you'd like to come, it's a fundraiser for us and women entrepreneurs and the movie production company, Hydra Studios. But Sufra is going to be on October 23rd, and you can hear even more stories, like the stories today, of women who, against incredible odds, find a way to fulfill their dream. So I want to thank you all for your giving. And again, if anybody wants somebody to come by and pick up their envelope, they can wave. Otherwise, you can put them in the baskets in the middle. And now we're going to move on to our panel. So I have not had the opportunity to introduce one of the women sitting up here today with us, which is Sarah Redgrave. Sarah is the Vice President, Total Rewards and Family Support and Interim VP, Center Operations at KinderCare. I got that right? Sarah has over 17 years of international experience in benefits, compensation, internal communication, and change management. Previously, she was accountable for Eddie Bauer's benefits, compensation, employee communication, and recognition programs across Canada, Hong Kong, and prior to Eddie Bauer, she helped build and lead the communications change management practice at Hymans Robertson, a UK-based HR consulting firm. We are so excited to have Sarah. Give her a hand. To hear about yourself, yeah. So part of the purpose of this panel this morning also is to give everybody here some really concrete ways that you can help the women we serve and the women in the community who are coming for help and for employment. And one of the topics we talked about was it's not just about hiring a diverse workforce. That's one thing. It's about retaining a diverse workforce. Sarah, you want to kick us off kind of talking about what that means to you?
Yeah, thank you, I will. So good morning, everyone. For us at KinderCare and for me personally, it is a privilege to be able to employ a wide variety of people. It is critically important that we open our doors to whoever we can and help them along the way. But when you, as we do, so KinderCare runs a series of many preschools all across the country, so our employees are mainly teachers, America's most important people, and we employ a lot of people who are either just starting out in their roles or are coming back into the workforce for the first time. And it's important for us and for, I think, all employers to think about not just hiring for education, but hiring for talent. So what is the innate talent and the skill set that you're looking for? And then invest in those people along the way so that you are helping them grow in their career and as professionals while they are with you. And so for us, that's really what we mean, and there's a lot of different ways to retain employees and to make sure that they are thriving and successful in your workforce, but it really starts with looking for something that is more than education, and then helping people grow along the way.
And Anna, you had talked about ways that employers can help and hurt. And you mentioned here one incident that really, kind of set you back. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. My first job, it was with an insurance company as a selling car insurance and health insurance. My daughter, it was 8 months at that time, old, and my husband lost his job due to, he got injured. He was a welder, so he got injured, no longer work anymore. Didn't have a job, and that was my first job, losing my business after being a business owner. My daughter had a seizure one day, and she ended up being in the hospital for 2 days. I was calling my employer, letting her know the updates, and said, I'll be back in the office as soon as possible, giving her all the updates, calling different numbers that she gave me. Third day, I went back to work, and she told me in my face, said, I need somebody who can come and work every day, not somebody who's going to be watching her kid in the hospital. That really hurt me because we are women, just lost your first business and trying to go back to the workforce, being the head of the household because your husband don't have a job, having kids, your responsibility, it's not only your job. You have to look after your kids, your family, you're a wife, you're a mother, and you're a worker. That really hurts. And I really feel that employers can help us by being more understandable, more flexible, and give us the opportunity, thinking like people like us, reinventing ourselves or redoing ourselves. We know and we are held accountable for our jobs. And if you give us the opportunity, I think we'll take it and we can show our employers how much we care about the opportunity they're giving us. But by having employers who don't really care about how we're doing at home, I think it's really hurting because you cannot go to work if you're having somebody in the hospital, especially your child or a family member.
Well, one of the things that we've talked about in the past is that when we think about work is not gender neutral, right? So the way we think about work is historically designed on what will work for men. So if you think back to when people are working and women aren't in the workforce, so all of those issues you discussed were handled by the wife at home, and the husband then was free to kind of participate in whatever. So we have to think about what does an equitable work relationship look like now with women in the workforce? What does that actually look like, which is not a special request, but more of an expansion of what it means, right? Kara, you talked about having a work employer who did help you after having a sketchy situation. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that employer did help you, that next environment?
Yes, so that was just a pretty small insurance firm who after they ran my background check and found out that I had felonies, called me back in and listened to my story, and I told them my story, and they hired me anyway. That would have typically been a no-go. Yeah, for an insurance firm to hire someone with a felony. But they gave me a chance. And I have to say also that they said the suit made a difference. And that was a joke for years to come, that they always talked about that suit, which is still in my closet. So I think that giving people a chance, I did not look like much. I looked like a stick in that suit. And I made lots of mistakes, and I didn't know how to interview, and I did not present well. But they, again, saw the person that I wanted to be, and they saw how earnest I was about trying. And I think that that's what you have to do sometimes, is look forward to who that person, where they're going, not necessarily where they've been.
And I think this is something we haven't said, which is also, what does it mean to be a second chance employer? We Dress for Success is a second chance employer, and what that means is that you look at the background and you try to find a way that background could work in your environment. Because if we totally exclude people forever from the workforce, that doesn't help any of us. So we have to figure out ways that works. And Dr. Rose, one of the things which people might be surprised, we've talked about too, is since your background in education, but hiring for talent and not necessarily education. So what does that look like?
I think it's a really important question for us to be asking in our communities today. And obviously, having really dedicated my career to advanced education and opening doors to advanced education for all, I have to admit that we're in this inflection point in the industry where employers are saying to us, you know, we need to train for these very particular skill sets. We need employees who can do these very tactical, very highly trained things. And higher education at its best is designed to help us to be well-rounded, critical thinkers, good communicators, able to work in teams, but we may not necessarily provide those very narrow tactical skills. So what we're seeing more and more of is large corporations in America, and this is part of the disruptive factor in the industry that is a major pressure on little universities like Marylhurst. So many of our corporations are simply saying, we're gonna take these skill training programs in-house. We're gonna train our own. And I think at this point in American higher education, we have to accept that fact. We have to acknowledge that there is a partnership possibility to be had here, and really think outside the box about how higher ed can partner well with industry to get the best of both worlds. So we could be threatened by it. We could simply say, oh my gosh, you know, company X can't do that as well as we can. Well, it seems to be working at a large number of major corporations in the United States. So rather than deny that fact, we need to simply be in partnership with those corporations and figure out how to do the best of both worlds.
And, you know, one of the questions we had is when you deal with employees and you make that investment, what do you get as a result? You want to go all the way back to Sarah? What does the employer get as a result of making that investment?
Yeah, I'd love to answer that. So I think the way that we think about it at KinderCare is we meet people where they're at. And I think it's a really important philosophy for employers to have of meet them where they're at. And then where they're at changes dramatically as the years go on. So what you have are people who are proud of the work that they do, feel like they want to give back to their community and to the people around them, and that sense of feeling proud and wanting to give back really means that what you've got is in a word, an engaged workforce. And when you have engaged people, and I know that is kind of a buzzword, but truly when you have an engaged person and that is somebody who just can't imagine anywhere else they'd want to be, that is a person who is going to give a lot of heart and soul into the work. And you as an employer, your end of that deal is you give them your heart and soul back. And so just as Anna was saying, you know, you be generous, you be flexible, and you find that comes back to you in spades.
All right, and as you two ladies, as employees, what would it mean to you to have that type of investment?
For me, I'm really thankful for whoever gave me the first opportunity, which was a nonprofit. I took it and I ran it with them, and I think I get back more than what they gave me. I was offered the position for the expansion office, and the employer says, you have 2 years to make it happen. If you can't make it happen in 2 years, you're gonna lose your job. I took it, I ran with that, and I exceeded the placement for that organization. I took accountability. I was really respectful and thankful to my employer for that opportunity, and I think I get back to what he just held me accountable for, and I'm still thankful for whoever gave me the opportunity to be where I am right now.
Sorry, there was one other piece that as Anna was talking, the other thing that you absolutely get back is when you empower people to speak is the diversity of thoughts and opinions, and that I wish that I'd started with that, because that I think is actually the most important thing that you get back when you give people power to speak is just such a more rich, diverse future for your own organization too.
I will definitely speak to that as well, because you know, having the background that I did, what happened to me, it was sort of like a crash course in life, right? And I was able to, I had skills on how to read people, I had skills on how to think on my feet, I got scrappy, I got defiant, I got tough, And so when they were hiring, when the church hired me, again, I had to have the conversation again of I have these felonies, and he was like, "What's up with that?" And I was like, "I don't have a problem with that. Do you?" And I'd gotten a little bit of chutzpah in there because I realized that, hey, you're gaining something by having someone like me around here that can really think on my feet, and I have much more confidence now than I did when I was that young girl on her wedding, at her wedding. That I am much more than that person. I'm grateful for my addiction.
Dr. Rose, I want to take a turn of this question because Anna mentioned something, and we talked about this when we were getting ready to come out, is that a lot of times when women are given leadership roles, sometimes they're given the dog. They're given this, they're given a difficult thing. And it's like, you got to produce, and I think this can happen to women and people of color quite frequently. They're given leadership roles, but sometimes those roles are very difficult. And there's some actual information about this from the university space.
Yeah, there is. So my research, as you know, is around women in leadership, and there is a lot of research that indicates nationally that when women are not in positions of authority, oftentimes the first time they break into those positions of authority is in distressed organizations or in political offices, frequently because it's an office that the prevailing political parties don't think can be won. So why not give it to a woman? That, thankfully, is historical and is largely behind us. In university setting, I can tell you 30% of university presidencies today are women, and they are disproportionately in presidencies of distressed institutions. And there are more and more distressed institutions in our country for many reasons we don't have time to go over today. But what I want to do, Sherry, is in a way is to flip that on its head. Because what I see when I look across the country and I talk to my counterparts, men and women, running universities and colleges across this country, is that many women that I know are more willing to take the riskier presidency. And for a whole variety of subtle reasons. And this goes to one of my lessons, which is don't assume why people do things, right? Ask why people do things. So what I know, for example, is that many women will take on a riskier role because they're comfortable in that for whatever reason. My background as a kid was extremely chaotic. Chaos doesn't bother me as a result, right? So I can walk into that without being rattled in the way that other people might. And frankly, too, some of us, myself included, have taken high-risk opportunities, high-risk organizations because I was unwilling to move my children. So if I had been a more traditional employee and said, yeah, I'm going to go on the national job market and I'm going to take the strongest organization I can find, that would be very different life. But speaking for myself and others whom I know, we have different value sets, and maybe there are other pieces to the equation. And frankly, I think taking on more distressed, challenging opportunities, frankly, I think you'll learn a lot more.
Yeah, I think you do, but I also think it can get tiring and it can take a lot out of women in that position. And I guess to wrap it up, that leads to the next question is and we'll start with Sarah, how can women and men support, how can we support each other? How can we help bring each other into spaces, and what does that look like?
Yeah, thank you. I actually recently heard this term, and I really love it, is rather than being a mentor, so let's start just with the individual and the individual person, but rather than being a mentor, think of yourself as an advocate for the people around you. And if you think about the difference between those two words, a mentor is somebody who talks to somebody and gives them their opinion of how that they should be. An advocate speaks about someone and supports someone to other people. And I think just starting even at an individual level, if we can think of ourselves as advocates for the people around us and challenge ourselves to find people to advocate for and be brave and speak up, that's a very important starting place. And we talked about this a little bit at breakfast, but As a person who was born into a privileged place and has stayed privileged my whole life, it is embarrassing sometimes for me to think about myself like that. But instead of being embarrassed by my past or who I am, what I do, and I challenge everyone in the room to do this as well, is especially those of you who feel like, wow, I didn't have a hard life like that, what do I do? Is to think about the person that you want to be in the future, just like Kara said, and a person who helps other people and uses your privilege to do good. And that means speaking up. So that is the first thing, I think, as individuals. And then more broadly, as organizations, I think it's very important for us to challenge organizations to be thoughtful about who we include in boards, in meetings, in working groups, in working sessions, and really challenge ourselves to think not just about the sort of the natural or the easy fit for people, but bring in people whose voices you also need to hear, and continually be thoughtful and purposeful about that. So those are the two biggest things, I think.
Following up on what Sarah just said, I am a strong advocate, and that's why if I see anything that is diversity, inclusion, my name is going to be there. I encourage other people, minorities, not minorities, women, not women. I always encourage them to speak up and to share what they feel, how they think, what their opinions are, because it really matters. That's the only way that we can make our society better, when we are all supporting each other. Another thing that I do, I'm currently working with minorities in the community. So what I do with people as a case manager currently, I try to empower them. I try to teach them what I already know. I try to show them how to overcome the barriers, especially in this country. The system is completely new to us. I've been living here for 20 years, and it's a struggle all the time. Every time that you're trying to deal with medical, with any kind of system, there's barriers everywhere. And that's, once I learn something, I just go out and try to empower other people, so at least they will have the tools that they need to be supporting each other. And I always said, don't wait for people to do it. Find and make the right questions so people can help you. And if we don't know the answer, we can look for it together. So I think that's the only support that we can do to each other, and that's for everybody.
Yeah, I really like what you said about boards, work groups. I think that we tend to, when we get so busy and crazy, we kind of want to pick the groups, pick the board that is the least work for us, and that people we have in common, we have things in common with, we all speak the same language, we all go to the same club. And I would just say that for me, I always ask myself a question when I'm forming some kind of a group, and that is, when I'm looking at the options and even employees, I look at who I'm a little uncomfortable with. I'm a little uncomfortable with their disability. It makes me a little uncomfortable. Or the way that they talk is just a little uncomfortable. I'm always questioning myself when that comes up. And that is likely an avenue for growth for me and for the organization when that comes up.
In addition to all the wonderful things my colleagues have said here, I think the only thing that I would add is that I'm reflecting these days on more and more, even having founded the Center for Women's Leadership, I'm reflecting more and more in how much we need men. And I have a feminist husband, I have raised a feminist son, and I'm thinking an awful lot these days about making sure that the progress that women have achieved in public lives, be it political office or corporate nonprofit service, has commensurate advancement of men in our homes. So the data would tell us that even as women progress in their work lives, they are still doing the lion's share of work at home: elder care, child care, home care. And I think what we need from the men in our lives at this moment, really, to make this change stick, is not just for our male colleagues to advance women at work, but to advance those women at home. So you can tell that my husband does chores at home, and I hope yours does too.
Thank you so much. of all, I just want to thank everyone at our panel and our speakers. Give them another huge round of applause. I also want to properly thank our sponsors, our silver sponsors, California Closet, Country Financial, the Greenbrier Companies, Providence Health Services, U.S. Bank, Cambia, U.S. Bank, our bronze sponsors, Cambia, Columbia Bank, KPMG, Morgan Stanley, Scale Asset Management, Signs Now, and Sorrel, as well as Wells Fargo. And I want to thank our table hosts, Directors Mortgage, Kaiser Permanente, Northwest Natural, Salesforce, and Soul Financial. I also have an exciting announcement before I let you guys go. Our Celebrate Success next year is going to be our 20th anniversary year. Yeah, we are really excited. And we have some exciting news. The founder of Dress for Success Worldwide, Nancy Lublin, will be coming to Oregon next year for a special reception the day before Celebrate. So you guys will get some information about that, but we are so proud and excited to have Nancy here to help us with our 20th year. So with that, we just want to thank you all, and I guess I can riff on Ellen. Have a great day and be kind to each other. Thank you.